Kia ora and welcome to the little podcast hour that we're doing with Dev Academy today. My name is Gina. In professional capacity, I'm EDA's operations lead, and I'll be working today with Rohan and Dougal to talk through some common questions that we get about Dev Academy and how people move through the program. So without further ado, can I hand it over to you two to introduce yourselves and then also tell us more about the kaupapa that is Dev Academy.
Cool. Kia ora, Gina.
Kia ora.
My name is Rohan. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Dev Academy. That's me.
Oh, kia ora, Gina. Ara ko wai ahau, ko Dougal Stott tōku ingoa. E mahi ana ahau ki Enspiral Dev Academy. Tōku nei mahi, ara ko te Kaiārahi Māori. Kia ora, my name's Dougal. I work at Dev Academy as the Kaiārahi Māori.
Awesome. We might go into that a bit more later, but to start off with, can one of you tell us how EDA started and what sets it apart from a university?
EDA started in response to sort of Joshua and I, who's the other co-founder, not really being able to see the right graduates coming into tech, and the fact is that there's just still not enough. We need a lot more people in tech. But also we were looking at the folks that were in tech and wondering what were the skills that they needed to really set them up. We were seeing a lot of folks that were actually trained in computer science not getting work, and we thought that was a bit of a tragedy, really. We need folks, yet they're not getting the right training. So when we started to engage with the sector more widely and go outside of Enspiral to companies like Xero and TradeMe and so on, we found that the talent shortage was much bigger than we thought. And we decided to do something about that. And we asked a very simple question: what makes a good developer a great one? And that really laid the foundation of what we do now. So we're a bootcamp. And what that means is it's a very intensive. It's a short time frame. So we've got a 9-week boot camp with a prequel, a preparation course as well of 5 weeks. So it's basically a 15-week program. It's got a break in the middle, and the idea is that you come in without any coding skills, or you can come in with no coding skills, but you leave with the ability to be a software developer. And that's the idea of a bootcamp. It's a very intensive experience. It's hands-on, it's vocational, and you come out with the ability to work.
And that's the big thing, isn't it? The idea that people leave Dev Academy with work-ready skills. So, Dougal, I was wondering if you can tell us more about the human skills part of the curriculum that really sets us apart from the traditional tech-only focused programs that are out there.
Yeah, I think that the human skills curriculum at Dev Academy, I think it just offers so much for students in regards to their a bit of a journey, a discovery around identity. Those some people call them those soft skills, core skills, or nowadays essential skills that people need, not only just in the tech sector but also across the board. So the Human Skills program works with students both one-on-one and in group settings, concentrating on things leaning towards good practice around giving and receiving feedback, communication. What does trust and empathy mean for software developers? Really taking a look at oneself and the things that are important to aid us communicating, engaging, working alongside not only people but also teams and any workplace.
Awesome. Anything you want to add?
Well, and the reason we do that as well is that employers are looking for that in new hires. One of the biggest things that we see is that we focus on information when we look at education, when actually what employers are looking for when they're investing in a new hire is ability. What abilities does this person have to collaborate, to learn? Are they passionate? Can they interact and negotiate and give and receive feedback, have difficult conversations? These are the things that make that experience for an employer better. and that's what they're looking for. So we focus on those harder things to teach, and that's where it lends itself to an experience-based learning. So we're replicating that real-life environment to bring out those things out of people.
And really those are the leadership skills, right, that often set people up for things like team leads or other leadership organisations in any workplaces that they may go into.
Yeah, definitely. We keep track of our graduates after they're finding employment, and we notice that a lot of them are being promoted to roles of more responsibility, often around mentoring and tutoring, also around general leadership in that wider sense, whether it's team lead or technical lead and so on. So we are seeing our graduates holding more responsibility. But also I think they're gravitating towards that. They're seeing how their skills are needed, and they're really taking on that wider responsibility. It gives people options, right? You can always say no, you can always say, look, I'm going to stay on the tools, but I think it's beautiful to have that option of being able to have a broader skill set and bring that to the tech sector.
Awesome. And so Dougal, can you tell us a bit more what that means for what the average day looks like, given that we do those leadership or soft skills or core skills, whatever you want to call them, alongside the more technical curriculum that leaves people with a full stack JavaScript knowledge, or at a junior level at least. So can you tell us more what the day looks like, but also more about how the course is structured?
Yeah, I think I guess the average day for someone a student at Dev Academy, we kick off around about 8:30, and we have our students. They jump into accountability groups, and that's about checking in with each other. This is a lot of this is around wellbeing as well, and for students to be able to own their own learning, but also to be able to support each other as they go through this journey. We then get into mindfulness at 9 a.m. We recognise that a really strong mindfulness practice and how beneficial that can be when we're asking students to work at their maximum capacity in an accelerated learning environment. So from there, a recap of yesterday's lectures. All the lectures are videoed so that they can review those, and then straight into their first lecture of the morning. That's usually kind of 45 minutes or so, and then straight into exercises where they are doing up to 70-80% of the bootcamp is peer coding, and they are rotating around everyone in their cohort. So just practicing and having the ability to work alongside different people from different backgrounds, different experiences, diversity, and just the learning in working alongside someone is so beneficial for students. We have yoga twice a week on campus. We have a yoga tutor that comes in. Again, the benefits for a regular yoga practice around stress regulation, and being able to take time away from the screen, and it's about slowing down your thought patterns and concentrating on self, health, and well-being. We give students a good break in the middle of the day. We are really big on kai. We love food, and it's an important. That's obviously an important part of bringing people together while we have that good break. And into the afternoon, it looks like another lecture that they kick off, and then straight into exercises. Our students can be at times coding up to 10 to 12 hours a day. So, we the types of support that we are around supporting them or wrapping around students is really, really important. Not leading them or guiding them through their experience, their studies with us at Dev Academy. Empowering them is what I like to say. It's kind of empowering students to own their learning, empowering students to discover how they learn and what's good, how they can apply that, and not only in their personal life, but also post-graduation once they move into industry.
Can you tell me more how the Fridays are different of each week?
Fridays are, I love Fridays, and for obvious reasons. Fridays are quite different because we, as students, we get to kind of sit back and reflect on our week. So that's one of the first things that we do on a Friday as a group, and just share how we're feeling. If there's anything that's kind of inhibiting growth or stopping me from achieving the things that I want to do or the goals that I want to set myself. So that's about doing that as a group and how we can support each other. What I also love about Fridays is Friday projects. Throughout the 9 weeks of an intense boot camp, from week 2 onwards, our students start building stuff. And so they're automatically setting up their CV or starting to contribute to their CV as soon as they walk through the door. So we aim to kind of, I guess, give students a real life go at what it's like to work in a development team out in industry. And I guess providing a safe environment for students to make mistakes, to test those skills, to practice. How am I going to work in a group? If I feel that I'm not being heard in a planning process, how can I ensure that my voice is being heard? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. How do I ask that question of a group when you've got a really, really tight time frame to knock out a particular project? So the last thing that our students do on a Friday is to present those projects. So in a 24-hour period, you might have a group of 4 or 5 students working away initially a very, very simple mock-up of a piece of software that they may have an idea for, with the view that they continue to build on that week by week. So by the time they get to graduation, they have all of the tools to be able to spend a good week developing an MVP to present for their final project.
Awesome, cool. And you said in your kōrero that the lectures get delivered twice a day, most of the week. Can one of you tell me more who the teaching team are, who are the people who are delivering those lectures, and what's the wraparound support that exists, both from a technical and a non-technical point of view?
Yeah, cool. So a lecture, I suppose, when I think of lectures, I go back to my university days, and I have a big lecture theatre. It's not quite like that. It's more of a live coding session. So you're going to have a teacher who is at EDA, they're software developers. So our teachers are all practicing software developers. And we have a lead. Both of our leads in Auckland and Wellington have many years experience. And we have support teachers as well that have varying degrees of experience in the sector as well. So a lecture is a live coding session. It's the introduction of a topic. And you're seeing someone that is very experienced, how they navigate that environment. And you're looking at that and you're observing how they attack a problem. What questions do they ask themselves? And so that you can see people understanding what's needed to actually step into those shoes themselves. And that's a really big part of demonstrating, I suppose, what it takes to be a software developer. Our teachers are subtly different to a software developer in industry, and vastly different to a lecturer in university. And the reason is our software developers are not there to our teachers are not there to answer questions. What they're there to do is to build up the skills and resilience of our students so that they can fend for themselves. So when a student says, "Hey, I'm blocked. I need to. I'm asking a question. How do I unblock myself?" A teacher is much more likely to ask a question of that student rather than give them an answer. So tell me how you got to here, and what are you trying to do, and what is this piece of code doing, and what do you think that might produce? And you'll notice the student going, "Oh, I get it. I know what you're doing. I've seen the way in which you've interrogated my code, and now I can fend for myself. Now I can answer that myself." So it's really taking people through the motions. What we've heard from industry is that they are looking for people that are resilient and constantly learning and upskilling, because the tech sector is constantly changing, and the technology changes, and the attitude of a software developer is to always be learning. So if we can focus on that and give people those tools and skills to be able to learn, then we're doing our job well. It's actually quite hard to do unless you have a particular focus on it, because our natural instinct is to just answer a question and move someone along. So although it might take a bit more time and we find we frustrate our students a little bit, they do graduate with this very, very strong sense of the ability to learn.
Nice. And in addition to the technical team, we also have strong attention to pastoral care. Dougal, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the regular practice of meeting with students one-on-one is super important. We do a lot of teamwork and group work, but being able to sit down every week with a student, and it's their time. So we have, there's a couple of different ways that we do this and provide pastoral care. One of those is through kind of a weekly wellbeing check-in. And talking to students about, I guess, asking questions, how things were going for you, how are the exercises, are you getting overwhelmed with anything? Is there anything outside of your study that could be a block for you or challenging you to, or inhibiting your learning at this time? My job or my role in that is not to solve. My role is to guide and to empower students, maybe provide, I like to see myself a bit of a signpost, a weird looking one, but a signpost and guiding students on where to look for support as well. But for a majority of students, a lot of it is just knowing that there is a place that I can have a kōrero with someone that's in confidence, and that it comes from a place where judgment isn't a part of that. Sometimes it's just about listening and just being validated and feeling that you are heard. Works for students. We also have check-ins as well, which is the other side of bootcamp is kind of looking at how they are going technically, how do they feel about what they're learning. For some students it can be an overwhelming feeling of, wow, I am learning so much so fast and then applying it right now. It's not like any other educational environment that many of our students have experienced. So the more that we can do around our pastoral care and supporting them both technically and from a wellbeing perspective is, for us is about making sure that our students are going to be reaching their full potential on graduation.
One of the things that we didn't mention as well is some of our deep dives. And these are a different form of lecture, and they're again an experience-based sort of presentation. And they are deep dives into our more human skills, the skills that we're going to need to lead and to collaborate and to be ourselves and to be strong in ourselves. So these will focus on a range of things, but things like feedback, difficult conversations, our inner critic, the voice inside our head. And these things are really, really powerful. So we introduce a topic each week, and it gets put into practice from that point on. And students are introduced to these topics and have an interaction in that deep dive, and then it becomes it becomes a tool, but it also becomes almost a reflective practice each day. So Dougal talks about Fridays. We also close our day with a closing circle and some reflective questioning. And we're often seeing students go back over the day with a lens of, what did I learn? What did I really get out of today? Both on a technical perspective, so what's the code that I can now do that I couldn't before, but also on the more people side of it, what interactions did I have with my cohort and what did I learn from them? Because everything we do is learning by doing. And it's amazing the experiences that students have. They're really... they're rich experiences. When something goes wrong in a project, there's a wealth of learning that comes from that. So we get really excited when something goes wrong. We're like, oh, great,
Great
good learning experience.
opportunity.
Yeah, it's really good. And look, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. We have tears and tantrums, and that's expected because these things are hard.
And it's an intense environment, right?
Yeah,
all
right.
around. Yeah.
But you know what? When you're sitting in 3 months' time in front of a hiring manager, and you say, oh yeah, the shit hit the fan, and this is what happened, and this is what I responded, and this is what I learned from it. your hiring manager's sitting there going, damn, that's the type of person I want. I want someone that's been through that experience. I want someone that knows how to manage that situation and knows themselves, because I actually don't see that in some of my senior or intermediate developers, and that is incredibly important. So we're really thinking about what skills that do need to be grown for that future environment, and the stories in which we create on bootcamp are very, very rich stories. We often see employers coming back to us saying, they're not grads. You shouldn't call your graduates grads. They're developers. They really are. They've had this experience. They're very rich in their skill set, and they can hit the ground running. Sure, there's tons to learn. There always is. But we can teach them the coding. What you've given us is that perfect person to come along and be able to learn.
Before we go into post graduation life, I just wanted to hear a bit more about. So it sounds like there's a really strong structure that is a wraparound support as and when students need it, but very much people reliant on their own learning and their own their accountability to themselves to learn as much as they can in that particular time period. Can you tell me a bit more what it looks like for people who may be technically less strong than others, or technically stronger than, say, the majority of the cohort? Do those people who know a bit more, do they feel cheated because they don't get enough out of it, or how's what they know already more about beneficial to themselves or others in the program?
Yeah, I think some of the things that I see, you have some students, and I guess I love what you said, Ro, about our imposter syndrome or our inner critic, and this is so essential for our students, and especially when you're coming into a group of students where you don't know anyone, and you're questioning your own technical ability. I always like to share with students too is that try not to compare yourself to anyone else in that, which is so hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that for students. Some come in with huge, you've got people that are students that are coming to us straight from university. They've just finished a 3-year computer science degree, but wanting to be able to I guess a different environment to apply those skills. So they might come in quite technically really, really sound, but what they might want to concentrate on and stretch in is actually the human skills side of things. So it's about not only stretching people technically, but also stretching them in regards to their human skills. The days of software developers sitting in rooms and you're feeding pizzas and coffee under the door, and then 3 months later some software pops out. Are kind of gone. Students need to know if you're working either in a big company or even freelancing, you have to talk to people. You have to engage clients. You have to understand. Software development's about solving problems. I'm pretty sure that it's a lot easier to solve problems if you can have an empathy for a problem that you're trying to solve, leveraging kind of technology. The other side of the coin too is that there are students that come to us that display natural human skills, and they're human skills that haven't they have been learned, but they, it might be culturally. It might be experiences, whānau that these are just the things that we do. We don't call them human skills. We just call it living, sort of thing. Whereas their biggest challenge is actually the technical side of things, of code, that's right. How do I learn? How is it that I'm going to learn and be able to, sponge up all this information and in the quickest possible time. So I know how to deal with people, but technically this is really, really tough. So the spectrum of different types of students that kind of come to us is really, really wide. And I think that the challenge for us is being able to mitigate a lot of that, anxiety and self-talk, critical self-talk of students, and say, hey, we're all in this boat together, and we all have different skills and things that we want to improve on, and we're actually going to do that together in an equitable way.
It's a good answer. It's if you think about industry and you think about a squad of developers, everyone's got different skills, abilities. You know, you might see someone that's got 20 years experience in the team, but just they haven't even touched this piece of technology, and there's someone with 2 years experience that's only touched this piece of tech. That's really normal. And who's going to be the teacher and who's going to be the learner? Well, both parties are, right? So it's the same with our bootcamp. We see technically strong folks coming in, and they're able to exercise their ability to mentor others straight away. That's beautiful. So we're really customizing our delivery so that every individual is learning and stretching. And if someone's technically strong, we'll stretch them technically, but we'll also stretch them in their ability to teach others and grow in their ability to lead. And if someone comes on with a natural ability to negotiate, we're going to be getting them to negotiate and mentoring others and pushing that part of themselves too. So we are taking a holistic approach. Bear in mind, our cohorts are small. 13 to 20 people. We get to know everyone really, really well. And we've got, 2 to 4 teachers, depending on how big the cohorts are, in each cohort. That's a lot of teachers for a small number of students. So it gets pretty intimate. It's a bit like a work environment. So we work really hard to grow people in that, in all facets of where they could grow, so that when they're graduating, they've got a well-rounded skill set.
Something that we don't advertise too much at the moment, but we have done since the beginning of EDA life really, is Careers Week, which is the tag on to the program at the very end of the course post-graduation that really helps with the job hunting side of things. And I was wondering if either of you could tell me more about partly how Careers Week is structured and what students or grads by that stage take away from it, but also how job hunting in general works once people come out of EDA.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off with that. I've delivered careers, the careers sessions for over 50 cohorts, so I know that space well. What I can say is that the bootcamp experience is one thing. Pushing yourself in the technical and non-technical way to grow, that's hard. That's hard in a certain way. Job hunting is a different form of hard. I don't know many folks that like selling themselves. I don't like many folks that like sitting up there presenting themselves and being rejected either. It's pretty emotional. So for everyone, I think job hunting is really, really tough. So the careers sessions are there to help you build your assets, your CV, your cover letter, how to approach the sector, how to network, how to get in touch with grads that are already in work, and how to interview. And interviewing is a big, big part of it, because I think we're all a bit scared of that. I mean, I've done a ton of it, and I always get a bit nervous anyway, even when I'm coming into an interview to interview a student or interview a new hire or something like that. There's always an element of nervousness about it. It's a pretty distinctive environment. So we take our graduates through building these assets. We also really encourage graduates to think about how they personally are going to approach the market, and everyone does it in a very different way. A lot of our grads just say, I've actually found work, or I already had something set up, or I've got a friend here and I'm okay. A good number of grads say, actually, I'm going to take my time to really bed the skills in that I've learned. It's been such a rush. I really want to spend a lot more time making sure I know what I know is right, and they take a bit more time. And then there's the group that's just really hot foot to get out there and get work. And we can cater for all of that. What we don't do is we don't give you a job. So we have relationships with a lot of companies, but that relationship is really through, I suppose, us being able to serve them as a sector, and through our graduates going in there. So we do talk to them, but we do want, and this is incredibly important, we want our graduates to stand on their own merits and be able to get work. And that is the true measure of the school. And we don't measure our school on the amount of graduates we have. We measure our school on the ability for our graduates to get work in the best places, and places in which they want, and progress through that career, and to have the freedom to be able to do so. We don't want to have pathways to employment that we are setting up so that it almost incentivizes in a way that we could hide. We could hide our ability to do our job well, if you see what I mean.
Something I really love in what I see your work being Ro at the moment in particular is the ability to connect grads, because we do know them so well, to companies, organisations they're really well matched with, whether it's personality or how they're hoping to work and learn. And that's something that I have always really admired. When grads come up to you and say, "Oh, this is the type of work I want to be doing," you go, "Oh, I have 3 people I can introduce you to," or make introductions with to set up further interviews or similar. Something that's relatively new at Dev Academy and has been around for just about a year now is the ability to get student loans. That's come off the back of us getting NZQA accredited at the end of 2017, I think it was. Can one of you tell me more about what the NZQA accreditation now means in terms of student loans, and the support that comes with that or from that money?
Yeah. I can jump on this one, and then I'm sure Rose got something to add on that as well. And I think the thing that resonates for me when you ask that question, Gina, is around participation, and I guess being able to see, we've got a really strong focus and a commitment that we've got a responsibility to the industry around increased participation and diversity within the industry, and being able to see a lot of our statistics, and I know Ro probably might have some around that, around just how many more Māori that we can, before I started working at EDA, you could have counted the amount of Māori software developers on one hand. And, in my time, being able to see, upwards of 50 Māori graduates from EDA in the past 2 years is massive, absolutely massive. And
I actually have some stats for you.
I'm sure you do,
if I
Jen.
remember them correctly. So I checked in on this before this kōrero today. So we've graduated, I believe, around 530 students now, and I think it's 48 of them that identify as women or people from a gender diverse background. Not quite the right word, can't think of it in this very moment. But also from a Pacifica background, it's at 7% and 14%, I believe, graduates from a Māori background. And I personally just feel so stoked that with people from a Māori and Pacifica background, we've actually surpassed population parity in terms of how we are shifting, like you say, the number of grads that are coming through from a group that was previously and still is so heavily underrepresented. So that's where I feel really proud of the work that we're doing as an organisation, both within the learning the learning environment, but also the organisation itself in terms of our commitment to Te Tiriti o Waitangi and building inclusive environments where people from often more underrepresented groups feel so at home and so welcome that they can be the best versions of people heading out into industry.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think also, with going back to the student loans, it's just having that accessibility now to our be able to study here with EDA, with Dev Academy, and being able to see, actually, I can do this. There's a place for me in tech. And, hey, there's another, I've got these 3 other Pacifica students in my class. I'm not doing this by myself. I can do this, and I have a unique place in industry. And there's something really beautiful about that.
Yeah, that's cool. Just one correction, you meant percentages, right? Not people.
Yes,
I think
percentages.
You said 46 people. It's 46% women.
48, yeah.
48% women,
yes,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful stat, and look, it's a stat that we are aiming for, right? Like our school has got its eye on the prize, and the prize is we want to see true representation in tech as we see it in Aotearoa. The actual loan aspect, one part of the question that I'll answer is, how do you get one? So when applying to EDA, you jump on the website and you apply on the website. At the same time, you can apply to StudyLink for your fees to be covered and for your allowance. And the allowance applies for the full 15 weeks on the full-time program, and it starts on day 1 and it finishes on the last day as well. But you can do that at the same time. You don't need to wait for your application to be accepted at EDA. You apply for both at the same time.
And you say that applies to the full-time program. You can also do the prep phase, which we call foundations, in a part-time capacity. And am I right in thinking that the student loan doesn't apply if you do the part-time component?
Yeah, student loans only cover full-time study. So if you're going to do foundations part-time, which is an option, then it's only bootcamp that's covered. Yeah. Any questions about that, and you'll be able to find some info online under study with us. So yeah.
There was one further question that I had that has just slipped my mind. The broader question, the other thing I wanted to mention, that's right, is that fees free also applies. So
Correct.
If you are a student, or if you're a person who is studying for the first time, then you can have your fees free study with us, and that is all done in the magical back-end system of our amazing admissions and enrolments team. Lots of people at Dev Academy blow my mind as they move through the program in terms of what they learn about themselves and who they are becoming as part of that program. However, the people I have most respect for are our mothers who are leaving behind their tamariki to come and be with us either in Wellington or in Auckland. And I was wondering whether it's, parents in general, is there anything folks can do to better prep, knowing that they've got people to look after at home in terms of prepping for such an intensive learning and life-changing opportunity, to make sure that they're best set up in that particular way?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because we did Māori in Tech last year. We've just done Te Tiriti in Tech yesterday with Vodafone, and I was thinking of another event. I was like, we should do Mamas in Tech, which would be just just such a beautiful thing.
I think we should call it Mamas Who Make It Work.
Yeah, and even my time I've seen mothers move, come from Christchurch to Auckland for 9 weeks. That's 9 weeks away from their tamariki, away from their partners, and just how tough it is to be able to dedicate and be selfish. Mums are not selfish, and being able to concentrate on themselves. There's something about that that is, I have the utmost respect for our mums that come through. And I think for all students, it's really important, before you come to study with us here at EDA, what type of support do you have at home? This is a really tough thing that we're asking students to do. It's really important that we have that support at home, whether that be partners, whether it be tamariki, sharing your journey with them, making them part of that journey. And there's nothing I love more than seeing graduation and having people bring their families and celebrate just how hard that journey was. And yeah, it really does. It brings tears to your eyes when you see these amazing mums and the sacrifices that they've made, and that they have a place in the tech industry as well.
Yeah. It is. I mean, we see students dropping everything. We've just graduated someone, and the whole family came up to Wellington for the whole 9 weeks. I was like, wow, that's investment. So people drop so much to be able to do this. And Dougal's right, you need to be able to put things in place. You can't do a part-time job whilst you're doing EDA. You can't afford to spend all your weekends with whānau. It's just not going to work. I'm sorry.
In terms of the work that
just
people might
the
need to do on the
workload.
Weekend to catch up on content, or
we have this philosophy that if you're in the 15 weeks, if you spend an hour, then that's an hour well spent. But if you miss an hour, you can expect to spend 6 hours outside of that experience catching up. So it's exponentially harder. So we really encourage folks, look, it's a short period of time. Drop everything.
And that's why it's a short period of time, right? To make it possible to learn as much while it's being as intense and productive as possible, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Is there any advice or recommendation that you have, partly for either for people taking their first steps into becoming a junior web developer? I guess with us they learn JavaScript, but also perhaps words of wisdom for older students who haven't coded before, and what their journey tends to be?
Gee whiz, I think Gee, what would be the oldest graduate that we've had through?
About 60, 63,
Yeah.
64. Yeah.
I think that there
And
is.
the youngest was about 17, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. It's been a range.
Yeah.
Broad
I think-
range.
Yeah, and our 63-year-old was a pretty good coder.
Yeah. And I think that there's this myth out there that this is a young person's game, so it's all about rangatahi, and it's all about like young people leaving school and getting into the tech game. There's a place for everyone in tech.
And the thing is, only once we have true representation of society for the people building technology will we have appropriate and useful products coming out and serving those groups too, right? Like if we only have white men in tech, how likely are they considered to,
Be able to build something for
That's
everyone
right.
else, right?
Yeah.
that's
So
true.
that's partly why I see that representation being so important in making sure, you know, we have the 63-year-olds coming into the industry as much as, you know, the mother of 5 who's moved from rural New Zealand to come and study with, from a rural town to come and study with us.
But you ask about prep, and prep is important, and there's lots of things that you can do. I think for a start, we say to anyone coming to EDA, if you haven't coded, you got to code. Get out there. There's free code camp. There's Code Academy. There's Teen Treehouse. There's lots of online MOOCs, massive online open courses that you can do. My suggestion is to spend a week full time just coding and see what it feels like. It's not a true representation of what coding is like in industry, because you've got a big team of people around you and it's very different. But it will give you some idea of what life's going to be about. Free code camp's probably my favorite. It follows the same tech that we do, and it is free and open source. Other things you can do to prepare is just have a look around. I'd go to some meetups, some tech meetups. There are different pieces of technology that you can sort of meet up and talk about, and those are great places to be able to find folks in the sector. You could look at some job ads and to sort of start having a look at those sorts of things. Maybe jump on LinkedIn and see what friends you've got and have a chat to them about tech. Those are good ways to prepare. But do bear in mind that software development it's a distinctive discipline. I don't think it's like many others. You're building something with other people that you see people use. It's a pretty rewarding environment. You're always learning. Something's always broken that you're always fixing. It's got its thing, so you've got to really want to know that you want to do it. But you won't know until you're actually in it. So the best thing to do is to code, talk to some folks about the sector, because as Dougal says, I think anyone can join, anyone can be part of it, but you've got to want to. You've got to have some passion to do that as well.
I think what you were saying, one thing that kind of resonated for me too, Ray, was just around getting used to repetition. Repetition in code, and if you're talking about preparation, you get better at code the more you repeat code. It's the same with our human skills curriculum. You get better at these skills the more you repeat and have opportunities to practice, make mistakes, fix that, retrospective review that, what could I have done better if I do this next time, and then implement, practice.
The other event that we've designed for this purpose too is called Day in the Life. It's meant to give people an accurate representation or impression, at least, of what Dev Academy is all about. We run those regularly, both in Wellington and in Auckland. We've got a couple coming up later this month in August, and they are listed on our news and events page on our website, and are also available on Facebook. Is there any other events? Obviously people could come to a graduation. They happen every 10 weeks, both in the Wellington and Auckland space. They're open for people to come and attend. Anything else that you recommend in terms of how they may interact with staff members, or obviously we've got our interviewing and admissions team. Anything else you want to add around how people might engage with Dev Academy to get started on their journey?
Come knock on the door.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Come for a visit.
Come hang out.
visit.
Fire us off an email and just say, hey, I'd love to come in and see the campus in Wellington or Auckland. Dougal can show folks around. We've got a whole staff there that can, and Jack and I are in Wellington. We can show people around. It's a great way. Graduation's pretty awesome. You get to see what you can do, and it's a pretty it's a pretty epic event in which you can see code on the screen. You can see what people have built. Yeah. What else?
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember about EDA is that we're just not a school. We're not just an educational institute. We're a community, and we are a community of alumni, community of staff. We have a community of events, whether that be day in the life, where you get to have a go. What is it? What's it like just to have a day in the life at Dev Academy? And those things, you get a taster of human skills. You get a taste of code. You get to interact and have lunch with students that are on, what is this like? Is this actually for me?
Yeah, cool.
Because this is about, I guess in my time interviewing for prospective students coming to EDA, it's just as much about students selecting to come and study with us, as much as it is to say, are you, do you fit the mold of an EDA grad? It's not about that at all. It's like, this is a hard thing to do. Are you up for it? Like seriously, hand on heart, are you up for this? And when you go back, you talk about the fact that the support at home and the time, the energy, the financial commitment, the resilience. These are all really, really important things to think about before kind of enrolling. But once you're in this community, it's pretty hard to get out of this community. It kind of sticks with you. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I think these are all the questions I was wanting to talk to you both about today. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I think if folks are considering studying at EDA, come and talk to us. Even if you don't know, come and talk to us.
Maybe you don't know quite when the time is right.
Yeah, maybe you don't know when. Our cohorts now fill up fast. It's highly likely if you wait a bit too long, you'll be on a wait list and you won't be able to study when you want. So get in there quick, and you can always delay your enrollment. That's okay. I think if you don't know whether you can be a software developer or not, come and talk to us and we'll be able to help you out with that. We can set you up with some alumni. We can set you up with something like a day in the life and interact with the school just to see what it feels like. But this is a pretty exquisite livelihood to have as a software developer. It gives you a lot of freedom. It can take you into entrepreneurship. It can take you around the world. I think it's got a place.
It's a well sought after skill anywhere, really, eh?
Yeah.
Not
It
just
is.
in Aotearoa.
Yeah.
And look, we can't rely on the classical careers that we've had in the past. We know that because we know a lot of the students that do come to us just haven't got the ability to find work. And I think tech provides a lot of adventure and a lot of freedom. So that would be a really strong message out there. And if you think, oh no, but not me, people like me don't do tech, then rethink that, because what we have found is that we've found that anyone can do this with passion and dedication and effort. And it's very, very rare for someone not to complete EDA because they didn't have the intellectual ability. It's almost unheard of. It comes down to effort and drive and passion.
I think one thing that I just thought about as well is that talking about community was we've got obviously a really strong network and community at Dev Academy, but I guess something that I've been thinking about too is like we've also got a community around partners and people that we align ourselves with. So if you're a freelancer, a small business, at both of our campuses we have a co-working space, and I think if this I guess the podcast and the things that we're talking about resonate for you, and that you feel that you have a really high value alignment with what we are doing, because we do have a co-working space, and the benefits that has for our students being around similar, like-minded, value-aligned people that are working in the tech industry from a mentorship perspective, for a networking perspective, that's absolute gold. So yeah, I guess that if you are a freelancer or a small business, and you feel that there's, you want to come and work in a cool space, in either Wellington or Auckland, again, drop us a line.
So in Auckland, that's in Newmarket.
In Newmarket, we're based in Newmarket.
Yeah, and in Wellington, we're based at the top of Cuba Street. And the other last thing to mention before we bid farewell is that, Ro, like you said, our courses have been filling up really quickly, in particular since we've made student loans available. I think last year by about May, we'd filled up 90% of our places available, of which for the coming year we'll have about 180 between the two campuses. So there's the one in Wellington and the one in Auckland, and we run 5 cohorts in each every year. So if you are keen to come and join us, we have just announced the first set of dates, what we've called the summer dates for 2020, with the prep phase starting in early November. So if you think that you want to get into tech in 2020, then now is probably the time to come and talk to us. Any famous last words before we wrap it up here?
Shout out to Brown Paper Bag.
Yeah.
Cool to be here.
Awesome. All right. Thank you both.
Awesome. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.